Hello everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here. Welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, Episode 7. With me this week, I have a returning guest, my sister.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be here again. I'm excited to be back on the show and just talk about stuff with my brother.
Nice. So, what have you really been up to since the last time you were on?
I've been busy a lot with school, just a lot of studying, homework, getting ready for some big assignments coming up later in the year.
Alright, that's pretty cool. Really quick, guys, my sister actually celebrated her birthday earlier this week, so even though it's a little bit late, if you guys want to leave some comments in the comment section below, wishing her a happy late birthday, I think that'd be really nice, so...
Very nice.
Oh my god, you would. But with that being said, guys, like she said, she's been pretty busy. However, there were some topics that she wanted to talk about, so we'll be taking turns during the My Week section, going back and forth a little bit, discussing different things that media we consumed. So with that being said, let's get started with the week, and I'll go first real quick. I want to start off by talking about the manga I've been reading, and don't worry, this is the last week I'll talk about these two specifically, because number one, I know it can get a little annoying to just hear the same thing over and over again, but number two, because the first manga that I'm going to talk about, Goodnight Punpun, I'm actually taking a break from it for a while. As I was telling my sister, and as you guys should know if you watched my review I put out a couple days ago, Goodnight Punpun is a great manga. It's a well-crafted story. The art is great. It's super realistic with the characters and how the story progresses. But the thing is that manga is just so depressing. Like, trying to read it all at once, it just brings you down, and it's a little too much for me to handle right now. I mean, I got through like 100 chapters so far, which is pretty good. I mean, I got through 100 chapters in maybe 2 weeks? But yeah, I need a little bit of a break from it. That's not to say that I'm not going to finish it, because I think it is a great manga, and I definitely recommend it. But as I said on my video, and as I'm going to say here, take your time reading it. If you read it all at once, it's basically depression straight into your veins. It'll ruin your day, you know what I mean? So, good manga. I'm taking a break from it though, so yeah. And as for the other manga I've been reading, A Bride Story, I'm now on chapter 14, and it continues to be great. I continue to really love everything about it. The characters are good, the art is great, the story is really nice, and as Teeny Leaf, who suggested it to me, said, definitely more stuff just keeps happening, more conflict and different things with the characters are going on. But it's really good, I really enjoy it, and I really recommend it to people. And yeah, that's basically it for the manga, honestly. Like I said, there's not really much to talk about because I feel like I've been talking about it a little too much. However, I recommend both of these manga, and next week, I definitely promise to try to read something new, so I have something new to bring to the table. And with that being said, I'm gonna pass it on to my sister. There's an anime that she wanted to talk about.
So this is an anime that I think you guys are familiar with. My brother has reviewed it and has talked about it through a previous podcast.
Yeah, I talked about it on week 1, actually.
Yeah, it was the very first podcast. And it's called Asobi Asobase. And I'm actually watching it alongside my anime club group in my high school. And I am on episode 7. The group is actually on episode 8. I missed one of the meetings, sadly. And honestly, I think you guys need to watch it because...
It's funny, right?
It's beyond what words can describe. Some kids were kind of skeptical of it at first.
I mean, you were skeptical about it.
I was skeptical of it.
I told you should watch it. You didn't want to watch it.
And I didn't want to watch it. And... oh my gosh, you will bust a lung watching this anime. There is just so many jokes. It's relatable, I think, for me and a lot of teenage girls in the group because of the crude jokes these girls come up with and their stories. And I think that the art is really good. The faces are hilarious.
The faces are awesome, right?
They're
like just the random faces and stuff. And like, what's been one of your favorite jokes that you've seen up to now? Like, without trying to spoil too much, but just like, what's a joke you really liked?
I think my favorite joke is the girl that likes to write the erotic fan fictions.
Oh, the nerdy girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, because she seems like she's like the most serious one of the group, right?
She hates guys, but she loves writing BL erotic fan fiction. And she nearly like dies every time somebody even gets close to reading it. And when people actually read it, it's oh my god.
It's funny, right? Oh my god. What did you think of the butler that can shoot the lasers out of his butt?
He's my favorite character.
The butler's good, right?
He's my favorite character out of all of them because he just appears out of nowhere and he says such weird stuff all the time.
Oh man. So you definitely recommend it, right? It's a good one?
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's really easy to binge watch. The only reason why I haven't watched everything is because I am, sharing the experience with a group of kids too. And the teacher's like terrified of the characters because he says that they remind him too much of the students.
Oh man, that sucks. But yeah, see, I talked about it the first week, guys. There's a second opinion. Asobi Asobase is hilarious. It is like pretty crude and over the top. But if you're into that type of thing, I think you'll enjoy it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty, so there we go. With that being said, moving on. Really quickly, I'm just going to talk about these next three. I've been talking about them every week. Same thing, I'll try to bring some new anime to the table next week. But really quick, Skullface, Bookseller Honda-san continues to be great. I know I say that every week. I basically say that every week about all the content, but it's because all the content has been, consistently good, surprisingly, which makes me happy. But yes, Skullface Bookseller Honda-san continues to be funny. This week's episode that just passed was all about censoring, I guess, and censoring different like manga and stuff. My sister actually watched it. It was all about how they're censoring certain manga because apparently in Japan you can have like boys love manga, which is like boy on boy stuff,
but not like legit gay romantic like relationships.
Yeah, which is weird, but that's just the way Japan works. And it's not to get political or anything because the anime doesn't get political about it, but the way the anime talks about it's really funny because they're just talking about like the double standards and they're talking about Honda-san dealing with all these people coming in looking for gay manga and he has nowhere to direct them to, like these two gay guys come in, but then he's like, we have boys love though, and then like the gay guys are like super into it, and it's just like really funny. And as I say every week, if you've ever worked in retail, you can kind of relate to some of this stuff. Like I didn't necessarily work with books or anything, but just that awkward, where do I direct the customer to, and all the weird double standard stuff, I could relate to it, so I keep recommending it. When it comes to Zombieland Saga, I don't remember if it was last episode or the episode before that. I had actually been talking about how I was a little worried that the zombie aspect was kind of being moved away from a little bit. But like just as I said that, it brought it back where I think it's going into the zombie stuff even harder now. Like the last episode, episode 5, had a lot of like zombie gags. Episode 6 had some more zombie stuff. We actually even found out about how 2 of the girls died, which was interesting. And yeah, Zombieland Saga continues to be really funny, really hilarious with like, especially the manager, the dude who always wears shades, even when he's taking a bath. It's hilarious. So I keep recommending Zombieland Saga. And finally, when it comes to Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, still continues to be my top anime of the season. I don't really know how to describe it without spoiling it too much, but basically in this last episode, I guess you can say they resolved like the second arc of the story. And yeah, it's just really interesting. Has to do with crushes, has to do with time travel. Yeah, my sister's giving me a look, but legit, it has to do with like crushes and time travel and all sorts of crazy stuff. It's kind of the kind of thing that you have to watch, but I keep recommending it. So yeah. And with that being said, you want to talk about the anime? What's it called?
The anime that I'm going to be talking about is called Natsume's Book of Friends. And it's basically about a guy who inherits a, I guess I could call it a quirk. He inherits this ability that his grandmother had where he could see yokai.
Which, for people who don't know, yokai are
just spirits.
Spirits, ghosts, right?
Like folklore from Japanese culture. And at first, it's where it starts. All we see is that he is basically living with a foster family, and we kind of see how he handles the relationship that he has with humans and how he handles the threats that he faces with yokais that are kind of constantly like following him around, calling him by like the name of some lady that he doesn't even know. And once he kind of he receives a gift from his grandmother who passes away, and he finds out that this grandmother actually had that gift, and that is why all these yokais are always calling him by his grandmother's name.
Okay.
And following from there, a yokai named Matsura, I think. His name that Natsume calls him is Nyanko Sensei. And Nyanko Sensei basically follows him around and is constantly like, yo, give me your book. The book is too dangerous for you. Because there's a lot of yokais who either just want their names that are written in their books, or they just want to kill him. Because in the book, if their name is written in it, the holder of the book has control of them.
Okay.
And so unless the holder of the book gives the yokai their name back, then the if the name gets destroyed, then the yokai gets destroyed.
Okay.
And so it becomes this whole thing where there's some good yokai, there's bad yokai, there's even humans who like are exorcists who want to abuse the power of the book, and so they're also going after Natsume. And there's currently 6 seasons out of...
That's a lot. Wow, 6 seasons?
Yeah, there's 6 seasons.
Like, how many episodes per season?
About 13 each.
That's quite a bit, though. I mean, I'm just asking because I actually know nothing about this anime as she's talking about it, but wow, that's a lot of content then.
There's, I think, 2 OVAs, and there's usually at least 1 special per season, just to kind of like summarize what happened in the season or to add on like a filler episode.
Okay. And
there's currently a movie that came out September 29th this year. And the 7th season will probably come out next year, during the winter. And I think that's really interesting because at first Natsume he's very stoic. He doesn't really talk to people. He's very like closed off. And the more he gets comfortable with yokai, he actually becomes more human because he learns how to communicate with people better. And, you know, obviously when a kid kind of has that sort of ability where he's seeing all these creepy stuff going on, there's spirits that are trying to hurt him as a little kid, people are going to think he's weird. And they bully him and everything. And so that became like his issue where he just didn't know how to communicate with people properly. And so there's people who could see yokai like him that become friends with him. Some of them who don't see him but like understand the whole lore are also like friends with him. But I think that something that's really interesting that I like a lot is just the way the characters are built, and the story is really good, and how you kind of like look at the grandmother's story. And some people don't like the grandma. I kind of like her, but I also see why people dislike her so much. She kind of seems like really mean at certain times. And I think that's something that you have to watch to be able to like understand better, because there's just so much content and there's so much story behind it and there's so much to develop on. And so I'm really excited to see what they have next. And there are currently 22 like volumes, I think, of the manga for Natsume. So yeah, I think that if you guys are interested, just look out for it.
All right. Really quick, what genre or genres would you say it is? Like supernatural. Like does it have a lot of action, or is it more like slice of life? There is action.
It has a bit of slice of life just because he goes to school and it's about like kind of handling like family relationships and everything. But I would definitely describe it as like a coming of age sort of supernatural story.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I wonder, I've actually never even heard of it, despite it having a lot of seasons out. So I wonder what's up with that. It seems like it's a bit underrated, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, because for it to have 6 seasons, a lot of anime don't get there. So that must mean it's doing something right?
I think it's just doing really well in Japan to begin with.
Oh, okay, could be that,
And then
I guess.
Since there has been more upstream anime that kind of overlook it, like a lot of people might have overviewed it. But I think that it's really good, and it's something that it's kind of underrated, and I think that's really important to kind of get it out there.
All right. I mean, I've never watched it, but I know you told me you were going to talk about it, and I thought that was interesting. And yeah, I definitely learned something about it as you were talking about it right now, because I actually didn't know anything about it before you started talking about it. So that's pretty cool. And what was the other show you want to talk about?
So the other show isn't actually like a Japanese sort of show. It's called Meteor Garden. It's a Chinese television series, and it is based on a Taiwanese show that was made in 2001. It's a remake, and it is based on a shoujo manga called Boys Over Flowers from Japan. So it does kind of have Japanese like.
Oh, wait. Just really quick. Is this the one that whenever I see you watching it, I'm always like, you're watching the live action anime?
Yeah, it's that.
Okay, yeah.
Their editing kind of gives it that sort of like anime feel.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know too much about it, and in a moment I'll let you talk about it. But yeah, for anyone wondering, it's kind of interesting because even though it's live action, it very much has a anime feel, which is really funny. Like, that's why I always tell her, like, oh, you're watching that live action anime again. So anyway, that aside, describe it.
So before I get into like the synopsis of the story, it's actually the 6th television adaptation of it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because there's just so many adaptations, whether it's in Japan or in Taiwan, that are based off the manga. But this specific adaptation is basically about a girl in China who gets accepted into a really prestigious university, and she's planning on studying like culinary arts and the like health and like the health aspects of it,
like nutrition.
Yeah, like healthy eating,
nutrition stuff. Okay.
And in that college, there are 4 people who are considered like the like super popular guys. They're known as F4. And they, she's kind of meets them in an unfortunate way. The team leader breaks her phone. He starts off as a douchebag, and she gets into like a lot of trouble with them. But as the story develops, at first she has a crush on one of the guys, and he goes away for a while. He goes to London, and she starts the bad guy in the group supposedly starts to fall in love with her.
Oh my god.
And he starts to have a crush on her, and she's just not interested with him.
Good.
Because, he's like a douche. And as time goes by, obviously, you see more and more about, like, why he kind of puts on this, like, tough guy facade. And, like, she starts to, like, fall in love with him, too. And then her original crush comes back in, and she's, like, kind of struggling to figure out which guy she likes.
Love triangle.
And not really.
Oh, really?
There are certain moments where the other guy kind of comes in. He's like, I don't think that you should be treating her like this, blah, blah. But he's definitely like more of like a close guy friend for her. And there's a lot of struggles because she comes from like a low income family. The 4 main guys come from like a high income family. And, in China, there's this whole issue with like the I can't say caste system, but where it's kind of hard to like mix people from like different economical situations and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's kind of an issue in a lot of countries, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of get what you're saying. So it's just hard for her if she's interested in even dating him because it's like looked down upon, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically his mom instantly shuts it down. She's like, no, you can't date him. You're like dust under his feet, basically.
Jeez.
Yeah, she's like hardcore evil, and
which kind of explains probably why he originally was kind of a dick then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's kind of like she's like this tough businesswoman who kind of took over the company after the dad dies. And so he doesn't spend a lot of time with the mom. He lives by himself, basically. And so you kind of see where he kind of like gets spoiled and he, wants to get attention from his mom. So he does like, bad stuff.
He has mommy issues.
He has some mommy issues.
Oh, right? No.
And, his mom just tries to control everything that he does. He tries to get him married to this girl, like, multiple times, even though he says he's not interested in her. And even the fiance at one point is just like, yeah, he's not interested in me. Like, we shouldn't be doing this. And there are some things I have issues with. I think, like, the ending was a bit weak.
Oh, so it's already over?
It's over.
How many episodes is the whole show?
I I binge watched it, so I can't really remember. It's well past 30.
It's well past 30 though. How long is each episode? Like an hour, half an hour?
It's about an hour long.
Oh, and you said it was on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Actually, I actually don't remember if you said that, but I know it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
So it's on Netflix, called Meteor Gardens, well over 30 episodes, each, you said half an hour?
Each is an hour.
Oh, each is an hour. Okay, so that's quite a watch, but all right.
And I think that for anybody that's interested in like romance comedy sort of shows, it's a pretty good watch.
Does it feel like watching a romance anime, kind of?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's funny.
But I think as long as it isn't like taken too seriously, it's a good watch. But if you like look into it a little too much, it kind of it'll ruin your mood.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because like I was saying, like the fact that this guy who's a total jerk, she falls in love with him and he changes. I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes me roll my eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. Like as long as you don't take it too seriously, it should be fine. So I mean, I kind of get what you mean. I mean, I saw a little bit of it when you've been watching it. It seems all right. It seems funny. It seems entertaining. So you definitely recommend it?
Yeah.
All right, that sounds cool. Alrighty, so that's it for stuff we watched. Really quick, I'm going to talk about some stuff I played. Honestly, I feel like this week was kind of a busy one. I watched a lot of stuff and played a lot of stuff, actually. The first thing I want to talk about real quick is Deltarune. So for anyone who hasn't heard about it for whatever reason up to now, Deltarune is basically Toby Fox's follow-up to Undertale. So if anyone's, seen Undertale, played it, whatever, basically on Halloween, Toby Fox sent out this like mysterious tweet hinting at like some sort of new project he was doing. And if you follow like the link, it led to Deltarune. And it's basically this playable, I want to say maybe it's like 2 hours. It's like this 2-hour playable thing. It's like a little game on it in and of itself. And it's like a follow-up to Undertale. And I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to like spoil it because it's the kind of thing that if you've played Undertale, you kind of want to experience it for yourself. I played it. It's free. It's really interesting. It's really good. The art, the music, the characters, everything's really good. I think it is a really good follow-up to Undertale. And the way it ends is very interesting. And the one thing I will say is that after, some time had passed and people had played it, Toby Fox sent out a tweet that said that he's been working on this for like a few years and he doesn't know when and if more will be released because it kind of ends on like a bit of a cliffhanger. But luckily, it seems like a lot of people have been giving him support and saying they want to help him make it. If you guys have ever heard of Devolver Digital, it's like a publishing development sort of little company. Like right away, they tweeted that they would be down to help him. So yeah, hopefully they help him make more of this because from what we saw, it was really good. I really enjoyed playing it. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much. I think you should all check it out if you're interested. It's called Deltarune. Yes?
And I also think that, I think the game will definitely become, they'll definitely invest more into it because Undertale did so well, it became so mainstream.
Yeah, like they really blew up. Like right now, they just released it for like the Nintendo Switch, like last month, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it was on PC, made it to, PS4, I want to say Xbox One. It's on Switch now. So I mean, if that made it, and if people have faith in Toby Fox, yeah, I can kind of see what you mean. I would think that there's no reason it wouldn't get made, but we'll see how long that takes or whatever, so.
Yeah, and from what you've shown me, it looks like the game already was pretty well developed to begin with, even though it's short. So I think that if more time and money is put into it, it'll definitely be,
finished.
It'll definitely feel more complete. Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure he has an idea for where he wants it to go. So it's just, let's get down and make it, I guess. Yeah. Let's get down and make it. So, another thing that I played is a little game called Transistor. And this game is in no way new. I think it came out like back in 2014. I originally played it on the PS4 when it came out. And it just got ported to Switch, which is why I played it again. Because when I saw it was on the eShop, I just had to jump on it and play it again. Transistor is great, but it is a very hard game to describe because, like, the moment you start up the game, you're in the middle of the action already. Like, I don't want to, like, spoil it because it's the kind of thing you have to figure out for yourself as you play it. But basically, you are this, like, jazz singer named Red. And she's this very famous singer in this city that's like really futuristic, cyberpunky, called Cloudbank. And basically, the moment you boot up the game, she's standing over the body of a man that she seems to know, and he has this giant sword thrust into his stomach.
Tragic.
Yeah, and so basically she pulls it out, like that's literally like within seconds, she pulls it out, and the sword starts talking to her, and it says like, oh, we're together again, or something like that, and you just start fighting enemies. And apparently from what you understand, the man who got killed, his consciousness is now inside the sword, which is the titular transistor. Transistor's the sword. Uh-huh. And basically the game's all about Red, the singer, and the transistor with the like soul of the man, and they're running around the city fighting all these enemies. And you find like other dead people, and when you find them, you can also like download their like soul or like consciousness into the sword, and that gives you more moves. And like I said, I don't want to spoil it because it's the kind of thing that you have to like play and discover yourself. But it is a really interesting game. The art style is great. It definitely has a really interesting aesthetic. The music is awesome. Like, the music's really good. There's both vocal tracks and just instrumental tracks. Its music is great. And the story is definitely awesome. It's something that even by the end, you don't quite know everything about it. You kind of have to piece it together. But it's just a really interesting game. And the gameplay, I'm almost forgetting the gameplay. The gameplay is really interesting because it's like an action RPG mixed with like real-time strategy. So basically what you're doing is you're running around the map and you're fighting things in the city. But every so often, once like a little bar at the top fills up, you can like press a button and it lets you plan out where you're going to move and what attacks you're going to use. And then you press the button again and she carries out all the attacks. So you can either do that to, you know, like strategize, or you can just run around and slash at stuff. So it's like
so she has a stabby USB. Just download people's souls.
Right? It's like basically a USB, right? But no. And yeah, it's just a really interesting game. The gameplay is great. And I mentioned earlier that like when you find like people, you download like their soul or whatever, and it gives you different moves. That's where like the RPG element comes in, because each move you can either make it passive so that, you know, it gives you like some sort of like a buff, like extra health or quicker movement speed. You can make it, how do you call it? It's passive, like an attack, you know, so you literally just press a button and use that attack, whether it's like a slash or like a projectile or whatever. Or you can combine it with another attack to give it like a new spin. So like if you combine, let's say like the one that's a projectile with the slash, that means that when you slash, it lets out like a projectile. Mm-hmm. Or like if you combine the dash, like the quick dash to run away, if you combine that with, let's say like the stab into the ground, it turns into like an area of effect. And so that's what's really interesting, because the game just really lets you mess around with all the moves, plan how you want to do them.
It lets you experiment with them.
Yeah, it lets you experiment a lot. And like I said, it's kind of hard to describe. It's the kind of thing that you really need to play for yourself to see what I mean. But I definitely recommend it. And the game is really cheap. If I remember correctly, I think it's like $20. So it's $20 on Switch. On PS4, I don't know if it's the same price right now. It might be even cheaper. But I really recommend it. And like I said, it's called Transistor. And it's one of those games that, I don't know. I mean, there's stuff out there right now like Red Dead Redemption 2 and all these AAA games. But it's one of those games that like I just love going back to little indie stuff like this, because there's just so much passion and so much like put into it that I just enjoy playing it. Like even though it's my second time playing it, I think it's worth it. So, and finally, the last thing I want to talk about is I played the Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight demo. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, Persona 5 and Persona 3 are both getting like little rhythm game releases, I think in December. I want to say December. And they just released demos for both games. You can go check those out right now in the PSN store. And yeah, so I basically only had a chance to download the one for Persona 5, but I'm definitely going to download the one for Persona 3. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to it. It just has like a training mode. It lets you play through 2 different songs, but I enjoyed it. I think it's really cool. If you enjoy the Persona 5 aesthetic or the music, I mean, there you go. You get to play a rhythm game with that stuff. And I enjoy it so far. I thought it was really cool, and I'm definitely going to download the Persona 3 one. And yeah, I recommend it to anybody who played Persona 5 and just wants more of it. So yeah. And with that being said, I think that's it for the week. Did you have anything else you wanted to add that you watched, or?
Nope.
That's it for now?
That's it for now.
All right, so cool. So with that being said, let's move on to the news. And the first news story I want to talk about is that Kirby Star Allies, it's getting its third major update. So yeah, Kirby Star Allies has been great so far. It's already on its third DLC release. And it's cool because all these DLC have been free so far. They've been coming out, pretty consistently, only like a few months apart. And this newest one is cool because it's going to come with 3 characters. It's going to come with Magolor, Taranza, and Susie. I'll admit I'm not very familiar with these characters. My sister doesn't even know anything about Kirby, so she's just confused.
I know that Kirby's the pink one.
You know Kirby's the pink one. That's good.
That eats stuff.
Yeah. Did you know that he's an eldritch horror?
No.
Yeah, I gotta show you later. There's like this channel where it talks about like the lore of Kirby, and he's talking about like all this like dark subject matter in the Kirby series that you wouldn't even imagine, with like worlds going through like apocalypses and how Kirby's basically like an eldritch horror. And I don't know, it's really interesting. But all of that aside, like I said, 3 new characters coming: Magolor, Taranza, and Susie. I'm only familiar a little bit with Magolor. If you guys want to check out the link, it'll have all the info. And not only is there 3 new characters, but there's also a new mode coming, and it's called Another Dimension Heroes. And as I'm reading right here from the article, a new mode that unlocks after clearing story mode, Heroes in Another Dimension is a challenge mode in which Kirby and his dream friends pass the baton while solving various puzzles in another dimension with the goal of collecting friend hearts. Boss monsters known as Another Bosses will appear, which are not more brutal in appearance, which are not more brutal in appearance, but also in strength. I think that's like a typo, but whatever. The 3 mage sisters await at the end of the dimension. So yeah, the 3 mage sisters are basically antagonists in the main story mode, and I don't know, it kind of seems to hint that they're either going to be bosses, or maybe they'll be playable, or maybe they'll have like a bigger role. But yeah, regardless, I just wanted to bring up the story really quick, because I think that the fact that Kirby Star Allies is still supporting players, still giving out free DLC, is awesome. So if you want to read more about it, it's in the description below. Moving on, the second story I want to talk about is that Nidhogg 2 is coming to Nintendo Switch November 22nd. And for anyone who doesn't know, Nidhogg is this pretty popular, well, I don't know how to say popular, more of, I guess you can say like a cult favorite among some people. It's like this kind of little like fighting game almost, where there's 2 characters standing opposite each other. One is basically the runner, and the other is the defender, and the runner has to go to their end zone. I guess, I don't really know how to describe it. I guess you can say like their end zone. And as the runner tries to get to their end zone, the defender is trying to stop them. And so there's a lot of strategy to it, because you both have weapons, and even if you don't have weapons, you have like punches and kicks and stuff. And so the runner's trying to get to their end zone. If the defender manages to kill them, they become the runner, then they have to run to their end zone, and it just goes back and forth with people fighting and trying to outrun each other to make it to their end zone to score a point. And yeah, Nidhogg, I played the original actually. I thought it was really fun. I was actually showing my sister some footage of the second one, and what'd you think about it?
I think that the graphics look good. I like the designs for the settings. I think that this color scheme looks really nice, and it helps. I think that just the design in general looks really cool.
And that's actually really funny, because believe it or not, the first game didn't look like that.
You didn't?
No, the first game, it was actually like very pixel art, and it was very muted, and the characters didn't have the silly designs. So a lot of people were actually complaining about the graphics. Right. So I think it's kind of funny that you actually like the graphics. I agree. I mean, even though it's like a really drastic change, I think it looks pretty cool. I think it makes the game interesting. It gives it a bit of an identity. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's an interesting story. The fact that it's coming to Nintendo Switch makes me happy. I mean, I feel like Switch is getting everything nowadays, and I'm not complaining. I think that's cool. So let's see. Moving on. While this story of Nidhogg 2 coming to Switch makes me happy, and I'm not complaining, this story makes me very sad. And that is that Final Fantasy XV's DLC has been canceled. So for anyone who doesn't know, Final Fantasy 15 has had quite its ups and downs ever since release, because a lot of people just felt that the game was really incomplete, and all this DLC that's been coming out, well, it's been a good thing, because it's been filling in some of the blanks that people felt were in the game. It's also been bad, because it kind of shows that the game was indeed incomplete. And so there was supposed to be these DLC episodes called Episode Aranea, Episode Lunafreya, and Episode Noctis, and it was supposed to expand on these characters. Because Aranea was this cool dragoon lady that joins the crew, you get to do some fights with her, but you don't really know anything about her. So for there to be an extra episode revolving around her would have been cool. We would have gotten to play as her more and learn more about her. Same thing with Lunafreya. Basically, she's the love interest in the story, and a lot of people didn't even feel connected to her. They felt nothing for her because they felt that she wasn't on screen enough time. Unfortunately, a lot of people, like I said, even though they've kind of been complaining about all this DLC that they felt should have just been in the game to begin with, I mean, that aside, we were supposed to get to play as these characters, get more about them, and yeah, these episodes have been canceled. The only DLC that's still scheduled for release is episode Arden, which stars the antagonist of the story. So, I mean, that's cool, at least we're getting that. But yeah, a lot of people are disappointed, and I don't blame them. I'm disappointed too. I think that being able to get more of these characters would have been great, and the fact that they're just getting canceled just really sucks. Like, don't get me wrong, I still love Final Fantasy 15. I still think that while there's lots of issues, there's a lot that it does do right. I think that the whole road trip thing with your bros is good. I think the relationship between the main characters is great. I think that stuff like Episode Prompto is done really well. Episode Gladio. No, Episode Gladio was the weak one. Episode Ignis was great. I feel like that was the best one so far. But yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed, and I can see why people are disappointed. And along with that piece of story, not only is the DLC canceled, but the guy who was basically the director of the game, Hajime Tabata, he actually resigned. So I don't know if Square Enix just realized he wasn't worth keeping on. I don't know if their games aren't doing great, but yeah, so DLC canceled and he got fired or he resigned, whatever. So I don't know, kind of a piece of sad news, because, I mean, I enjoyed Final Fantasy 15. I liked it enough, so that sucks.
It could be that they're cutting that out so that maybe they could elaborate more on it in something else. Yeah,
what I'm kind of, I just thought of it right now. Maybe the reason they decided to, cut it now is because they announced the Final Fantasy VII remake quite a bit back. And since then, there hasn't really been any word of, their progress with it. So that might be, they just decided, okay, it's time to quit working on Final Fantasy 15 so that all hands on deck for the remake. I mean, that could be it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, regardless, who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and time will tell. But as I said, I was a bit disappointed. I bet I'm not the only one. So, yeah. Moving on, I have quite an interesting story that I don't really know what to think about it yet. But apparently, earlier this week, a Breaking Bad movie was discussed, that it was in production, and I was going to talk about that, and then a few days later, there was more information that came out that apparently the Breaking Bad movie will be a sequel following Jesse, and Aaron Paul will return as Jesse. And so, I don't know what to think about that. I mean, how far did you get into Breaking Bad? Season 3?
I think I was on season 3.
Okay, so yeah, you haven't even finished it yet, so I'm gonna try to not spoil it. I'm gonna try to also not spoil it for people who maybe haven't watched the show, they've heard about it, but they haven't watched it. I mean, it's kind of a cultural phenomenon at this point. I think everybody knows about it. In case you don't, Breaking Bad is the show about a chemistry teacher who's kind of a loser, hates his life, finds out that he has cancer, and since he has cancer and he's gonna die soon, and I guess, like I said, he just kind of hates his life, and I mean, he basically says, screw it, I'm gonna sell meth, because he finds out that, selling meth makes some good money. And since he's gonna die anyway, he figures that that's a good way to
have money for his family. And since he's a chemistry teacher, he knows a lot about how to make meth, because he knows about the chemical compounds and everything. It's crazy. And so basically, yeah, Breaking Bad lasted 5 seasons. It followed the adventures of Walter White, aka Heisenberg, and Aaron Paul played Jesse Pinkman. He was basically his sidekick. They worked together to sell meth and all sorts of stuff.
even though season 5 does end in a very conclusive way for Walter White, I guess it ends a little ambiguously for Jesse, where you do kind of wonder, like, oh, I wonder where does he go now? You know, what happens to him now? And so I guess the guy who made the show is interested, he's interested in telling more of the story. Because, actually, let me see. Because it is being made by the original show creator, Vince Gilligan. And it says right here, penning the screenplay and possibly directing. So, I mean, that's the part that at least does give me some confidence that even though a sequel does sound kind of like, that sounds kind of iffy, the fact that it is the original creator with the screenplay and he might be directing it, that does give me faith that, okay, this could be good. If it's like a TV movie that follows Jesse to say what happened after season 5, I mean, maybe it'll be good. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what I've seen from the show, it's really obvious. It is obvious that the show is about Walter. And, you know, Jesse is technically the sidekick, and a lot of it is focused on how Walter reacts to everything, how he handles the situations. It does cut to stuff that Jesse does throughout the show, but I think that the movie would give a good perspective of maybe after, you know, the show had ended, what Jesse was doing, how he might have felt about stuff that they had done, like kind of like backstory,
no, not really. Like, if you do watch the whole show, I do think we get enough of Jesse. Like, I kind of get what you mean, but it's not that kind of show. I think by the end, we basically know everything about Jesse we need to know.
Oh, okay. It's just that from what I had seen, it just kind of felt like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe, like, once I finish it, I'll see it, like,
yeah, I think you'll see it a little bit differently, especially because by the time it ends, Jesse is in a very interesting place. So that's why I'm saying I do feel like there is a story to tell. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still think that it's something that's probably worth looking out for and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It seems
unlike other projects where it feels kind of iffy, this one actually sounds all right. You know, I'll definitely keep an eye out for it if they really do make it. So, and yeah, you should probably try to catch up on Breaking Bad so that if a movie comes out, you're ready for it. So
I gotta say though, I didn't recognize Bryan Cranston at first until you mentioned, and once because I had only seen the trailer when he was bald and with the beard, and once I started watching it, I was like, "Wait, is that the dad?"
Oh my god, yeah.
Dad from
Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, man, the fact that Hal from Malcolm in the Middle becomes Heisenberg is crazy, but that just speaks to how good of an actor he is. So, moving on. This is also a weird story. So apparently, according to this article, Shrek and Puss in Boots are being rebooted. Like, not only the Shrek movies, but like the Puss in Boots franchise.
I see what you did there. Rebooted.
Ah, shut up. And this is such a weird story. Because, okay, basically according to the story, so Shrek came out in 2001. The first movie did great, but as sequels started coming out, they started doing worse and worse, right? People started getting tired of it. Mm-hmm. Puss in Boots had a spin-off in 2011. Once again, that did pretty good. Honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought the Puss in Boots movie was pretty funny.
I liked it.
However, it never got a sequel, and according to the article, it got shelved in 2015. Now that DreamWorks got bought out by Universal, I guess Universal wants to revive the Shrek and Puss in Boots franchises. However, the weird thing is that even though like the article says that they're getting rebooted, they're not really reboots either, per se. Like, that's what makes it so weird. Like, if you read the article, the guy who's in charge, apparently it's the guy who's made Despicable Me. Apparently he's in charge of all this. And he's like, yeah, we want to like make more Shrek movies. However, we don't want them to be attached to any of the other four. Like, we don't want to make them sequels. But at the same time, we don't want to get rid of like the voice actors or the establishing characters. So they're reboots, but they're not. So I don't know how they're even going to do this. It already sounds like such a huge mess. I don't even know what's going to happen. Because basically, I mean, like, is it just going to be like an alternate universe thing? Are they just going to choose to like start back with like Shrek and Fiona being married but not having like the little kids yet? Like, how is this gonna work? I don't know. It sounds like not even the article knows. It even says right here, it's not immediately obvious how the new Shrek movies will balance not being attached to the previous films while still retaining the same familiar voices and characterizations. So I don't know how this is gonna work. It sounds like a whole mess.
I think that it might also just be, like, the media isn't getting the story across well. Like, maybe it's just that they're not expressing what they're doing properly, you know? Because it does sound weird for them to be saying, we're not making a reboot, but we're also making a reboot, right?
That's what I'm saying. This sounds like such a mess.
So I think it might even just be, like, a communication error or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what they mean is, like, okay, we're gonna keep the same voices, keep the same characters.
But we're
However,
clean up the story of
yeah, we're not gonna, like, reference things from other movies, for instance.
Right.
Like, maybe it'll just be like, oh, hey, here's this guy named Shrek and his wife and their kids. But they're not gonna, like, talk about other movies. It'll just be like, here's a new adventure. Right. Maybe? I don't know. It just sounds like such a mess, though. And, like, I hate how Hollywood does weird crap like this, where they're trying to reboot everything and make sequels and spin-off universes. And, like, it's just such a mess, dude. Like, Shrek, the first one, I would argue, was pretty good. I think for what it was trying to do at the time, it was great. As they continued, they got pretty bad. I think they should just let it be. If they're interested at all, screw it. Make, like, maybe an animated show on Netflix or something. I think they should just let it go, but...
To be honest, I like the second Shrek movie more than the first one.
Oh, yeah, the first and second ones are pretty good, I would say.
Yeah, the third one and
I love the second one because that's when they introduced Puss in Boots. I thought that was great. Yeah. But yeah, the third and fourth one were just really bad.
The Rumpelstiltskin one was the one that I hated the most.
Honestly, I think the third one was the worst.
The
one where he's trying to look for King Arthur.
Oh, yeah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, but anyway, that aside...
Puss in Boots was good, though.
Huh?
I like the Puss in Boots movie.
Yeah, the Puss in Boots movie was pretty good. I honestly just wish they had made more Puss in Boots. I think it's a little interesting story about this vigilante Zorro-like cat, you know? I thought that was cool, but...
I mean, it is Zorro.
I mean, Antonio Banderas as Zorro and Puss in Boots, I know. Yeah. But yeah, that aside, guys, if you're interested, you can check that story in the description below and let me know what you think. Are you excited for more Shrek? I'm sure as hell not. Something I am kind of excited for, though, because I'm actually really curious to see how this is going to work. And surprisingly, Teeny Leaf, the one who's always commenting all my videos, love her, she is awesome. She actually told me about this, but apparently BBC is making a Watership Down TV miniseries. And I know you kind of had some questions about what Watership Down was. I said I would wait until the podcast to talk about it.
Right.
Basically, Watership Down, originally it's some novels, and then it got made into, like, a movie. I forget when. I want to say it was, like, the 80s.
Not that long after the books. It's from... The books were written in...
Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it says in the article.
It came out in 1978.
Perfect. They're 1978. Basically, it was this animated movie that it looks like it's an animated movie for kids, but it's not. Basically, Watership Down is this story about these rabbits, and stuff is going down in their homeland because predators are moving in. All sorts of humans are moving in and killing the rabbits. And yes, you see rabbits dying in traps and stuff in the movie. That's why it's, like, not for kids at all. And so it's about these rabbits escaping their old home and looking for a new home because stuff's going down where they live. And it's really good. Like, has very mature themes and stuff. And I love it, though. I mean, it has rabbits. I love rabbits, but I don't like watching rabbits die, but that's a whole other thing. But it's an interesting story, and the movie's pretty good, despite being, like I said, pretty mature. And so, yeah, BBC is making a Watership Down TV miniseries. And in this article, it talks about how we look at some of the images, the full voice cast is revealed. Apparently, James McAvoy, who, you know, came out as Professor Xavier, who came out in the movie Split, he's one of the starring roles. John Boyega, who came out in Star Wars and Attack the Block, he's coming out. Let's see who else. A whole bunch of British actors are lending their voices, actually. Ben Kingsley. Who else? Ben Kingsley, Taron Egerton. Let's see. I don't really recognize any of these other names, like, right off the top of my head. But if you check Nicholas Hoult, who was Beast from the same X-Men movies.
Oh.
Yeah, that's who he is. But yeah, basically a whole bunch of British actors are lending their voices. And yeah, I'm excited for it because, like I said, Watership Down is a very interesting story. I think the content is interesting because it has, like, mature themes despite being about little rabbits running around. And yeah, all these voices are very well-known people. So I'm really interested to see how the show turns out. I mean, the images look fine. Right? Like, I want to say the animation's, like, anything to write home about, but it looks all right, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at some images right now. There's a little bunny that has like a little, what would you even call that? He just has a little curly hair on top of his head. This looks funny.
It looks like a toupee.
It looks like a little toupee. But anyway, I saw the original. I thought it was interesting. I'll definitely check this out. If anyone's interested, does it say when it's supposed to come out? Looking through the article.
A lot of pictures.
Pictures. Watership Down premieres on BBC One in the UK this Christmas. Oh, it will stream through Netflix outside of the UK sometime thereafter. All right, so you can expect it. If you live in the UK, you can expect it for Christmas. If you live outside the UK, I guess you can expect it, I would say, probably like next year sometime. So
yeah, let's watch some bunnies die on Christmas.
Oh God, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I really like the movie. Like, I think it's good. But yeah, watching some of those bunny deaths is pretty brutal.
What is up with Brits and bunnies and
I don't know, right? Like Peter Rabbit, when they show his dad dying, was super screwed up.
Because I know they have this whole agricultural thing where like bunnies eat stuff. They're produce and stuff. But Jesus Christ.
I don't know, man. Every time a bunny dies, it makes me sad. My fallen brethren. Anyway, moving on. The last story I had to talk about is that KonoSuba is getting a dungeon RPG. So KonoSuba, also known as KonoSuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World, is this... would you even call it an isekai anime?
No.
I mean, technically, right? Because,
right.
I mean, yeah, so isekai anime, stuck in another world. Except KonoSuba is great because the cast of KonoSuba, for anyone who doesn't know, basically it's like the anime version of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Right.
Because all the characters are terrible.
They're idiots.
And yeah, they're idiots and they're always at each other's throats. And they're so dysfunctional, but yet they're dysfunctional in a way where they're the only ones who can stand each other.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen KonoSuba, go check it out. There's 2 seasons out. I think there's like 20 episodes right now. KonoSuba's great. It is one of the funniest anime you'll ever see. It's about a dude and his team of chicks running around in an RPG-like world doing missions, but they're all screw-ups and they're terrible people, so things never go right for them. All that aside, yeah, apparently it's going to get a dungeon RPG coming to PS4 and PS Vita. And yeah, does it say when it's going to come out? Not yet. I don't think it really has that much info. But however, I think that's great. I'm actually surprised they didn't do this sooner because the whole point of KonoSuba
is that it's like a game.
Yeah, is that it's like game-like and they're doing RPG-like missions. So this totally makes sense. The one thing I don't know though is that in the series, it's about them being screw-ups, though. And they suck at what they do. So how will they translate that into the game, though?
Who knows?
I mean, like, will Megumin only cast Explosion?
Yeah, hopefully.
That would be hilarious.
But the thing about Megumin is that she just uses it once and then she's, like, dead.
Oh my god, that's true. She can't even do more than 1 explosion a day.
And then, what's her face?
Aqua is just useless.
Yeah, she does those little party tricks. And then we have Miss Masochist over here who likes to get hit. So.
Yeah, Darkness would probably just purposely like have her HD depleted because she likes it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they're going to work it, but it sounds funny. If it's anything like the show, I think it'll be great. And I'm excited for that. It sucks that we don't have any more info right now, but hopefully it ends up being a good game. Hopefully it stays faithful to the series. So, yeah. I think that's great. Oh my god, that's funny.
They're idiots.
Alrighty, and like I said, that was the last story for this week. Honestly, news. I feel like there wasn't that much news this week. I mean, after last week's big Smash Direct and all that, this week was a little slower, but I still hope you guys got something out of it. I thought I'd try to bring as many interesting stories to the table as I could. With that being said, though, it's time to move on to the Content Creator Spotlight. The content creator I want to talk about this week is actually a content duo, and that is Two Takes. And for anyone who has never seen them before, Two Takes is this pair of... It's a guy and a girl. I think they're like siblings or something, probably.
Yeah, probably siblings. They don't look like they're dating.
It'd be so funny if they are and they get super pissed.
Oh no.
They might be, I don't know. I don't know if they've ever really said, honestly. But anyway, yeah. Two Takes is this guy and this girl. and they run this channel where they do all sorts of like movie and TV reviews, especially movies. And so reading from the description of their channel, Two Takes take on the best and worst films and TV, slicing them open with the mighty sword of critique, ripping out their insides, and parading them around on the YouTube channel. Also, puns. And yeah, I love these guys. I actually learned about them through the Movie Void, who, if anyone remembers, Movie Void is a friend of mine. I talked about him the first week. He's this guy who also does movie reviews, but while his are more like horror and like indie based, Two Takes, their bread and butter is that they cover IMDb's worst 100 movies. And like I said, that's not the only thing they do. Like, they do also talk about like the Best Friends movie by Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero. They talked about that when it came out. They talked about let's see what else they talked about. They actually talked about Watership Down. I forgot about that. They actually talked about Watership Down at one point. But yeah, they talk about all sorts of content. But I think like the main thing from their channel is the IMDb's Worst 100. And basically, it's really funny. They look at all these terrible movies, like think Mystery Science Theater 3000 level of bad, and they just talk about the movie. They talk about stuff that comes out, stuff that they find ridiculous. They trash talk it, and it's just really funny. Basically, like the last two movies they talked about Prince of Space, which is this 1959 like sci-fi movie, and it's one of those movies that has like the really bad dubbing because it's like a Japanese movie, and so it has like the dubbing in English, and it just has all these ridiculous effects, and so they're making fun of that. And then the last video they did a couple weeks ago, they talked about the Oogly Loves in the Big Balloon Adventure or something like that. And that's this terrible movie aimed at preschoolers that has these like creepy, like you saw it, I showed you earlier.
They have like lemon heads.
Yeah, they have like these creepy lemon-headed mascot people with unblinking dead eyes, and the music's terrible, and the plot is like terrible. Like, yeah. I would say the plot is offensive even towards kids.
Yeah.
Like, a kid's movie does not have to be this bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so Two Takes are brave souls for covering this, and they're just a really fun channel. I think the chemistry between them is really great. I think the movies they cover and the way they trash talk them is hilarious. And not only that, but after every movie they cover, they always have like a little skit as they cross out the movie from the list. And there's all this funny stuff. Like for the Oogly Loves one,
they had a senile pillow.
Yeah, they had like this senile pillow, and it was like stop motion, and like you have to watch it. But like basically the senile pillow just wants to end it all.
Commit seppuku.
Yeah, and then in the one about the Prince of Space, for instance, they make fun of like the bad dubbing and the bad effects, and like it's just really funny. But yeah, Two Takes currently sitting at 468 subscribers. They don't release as much as they used to. I feel like they release now like once a month, but still they have quite a bit of content to catch up on, and I definitely recommend subscribing to them. I think that they're a really fun channel. And so Two Takes, if you guys are listening to this, number one, I'm sorry if I called you guys siblings and you guys are not siblings. And number two, keep up the good work, guys. I think that your channel is awesome. The fact that the Movie Void helped me discover you guys is great, and I look forward to seeing more of you guys' content. I think you guys have a really unique thing going. Do you have anything to add from what you saw?
I think that the quality of their videos is really good. I think that their editing and the humor that you've showed me from their videos so far is really good. Otherwise, again, sorry for calling you guys siblings.
If we're not siblings? It's gonna be so awkward, right?
Oh.
And yeah, I think that's all we have to say about that.
We're sorry.
But yeah, everybody check them out. Give them some love. And with that being said, that brings us to the end of another podcast. Episode 7 is done. Once again, I want to thank my sister for being on. I think you did a good job.
Thank you. And I can't stress this enough, guys. Please watch Natsume's Book of Friends. It's like, I promise that at least 80% of you guys are going to be wanting more from this. I know that I have been wanting more of this. I didn't even know that the movie had come out because of how little media kind of covers it. But I am definitely going to try to watch this as soon as I can, and I can't wait for the next season to come out.
Yeah, I'll see if I can catch up on this series too, because if I end up watching it, that's something for me to talk about on the podcast, you know what I mean? So that'd be interesting too.
Yeah.
And yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much to all of you guys who tune in every week to listen, to support me, to leave your comments and your feedback. And yeah, I'll see you guys. Oh, actually, before I go, I hope you guys enjoyed my Punpun manga review. I know that was a little different. I've never really covered a manga before, but it seems like people enjoyed it. Hopefully it convinces you guys to go check out the manga. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do on the channel this coming up Wednesday. I'm kind of thinking of maybe doing a review of Transistor, though that might be kind of hard since it's such a vague and ambiguous game you have to discover for yourself. So if I don't do that, I mean, who knows, maybe I'll cover an anime then. I feel like it's been a while since I really covered an anime. But yeah, I guess we'll see. But I'll definitely try my best to do a video this Wednesday. And not only that, but I am going to soon begin recording a game because I want to put a Let's Play on the channel. I won't say what it is yet. I want to keep it a surprise, but I am hoping to sit down and record that soon and hopefully have like a little teaser, you know, that kind of like teases what game I'm going to play. So look forward to that, huh?
Wow, a teaser that teases.
A teaser that teases, right? And yeah, I realize at this point I'm kind of rambling a lot. So my name is Wannabe Reviewer, and I will catch you guys next week.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
When you speak, I hear silence. Every word a defiance. I can hear, oh, I can hear. Think I'll go where it suits me. Moving now to a country with everyone, oh, everyone, before we all become one. You tell yourself that you're lucky, but lying down never struck me as something fun, oh, any fun. Stabbing pain for the feeling. Now your wounds never healing till you're numb, oh, it's begun. Before we all become one. We all become one. We all become one. Oh,